Hello there, this is Andrea for Beadaholique. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to make this stamped and dapped pendant. It's a double pendant using two separate stamping blanks. And what you're going to need for this is you're going to need two blanks. I chose a silver plated and a brass. Now these are pretty inexpensive to start off with. If you're brand new at stamping, I would highly recommend starting off with the inexpensive plated or more inexpensive metals before you move on to sterling silver. A very refined version of this necklace is if you would use two sterling silver stampings. I have a 25mm and a 19mm, so it would be the same, except this would not be a gear, it would just be another round. And then use the liver of sulfur gel to blacken the letters. But we're kind of cheating today. We're going to use a black permanent marker. So you're going to need the two stampings, like I said, 25mm, 19mm. You're going to need 3 jump rings. Chain, I've got 2 feet. I'm obviously mixing metals here, but like I said, once again, you can do whatever you'd like. You can keep it all the same. You can do all copper, all silver, all brass. It's really up to you. So I have a gunmetal chain, 2 feet of that. I have a copper ball head pin. I've got a bead to go in the center, and I'm using a Swarovski pearl, but you can use a gemstone to correspond with the kids' birthdays, and a clasp if I didn't already mention the clasp. Okay, you're going to need your standard hand tools. You're going to need 2 pairs of chain nose pliers, a pair of flush cutters, a pair of round nose pliers. Now for the tools. This is the interesting part. Today I'm using this Beadsmith letter punch set, which is one of the less expensive sets, but it is really great. This is the handwritten font, and it's all uppercase. And as you can see, it's really easy, user-friendly, alphabetical. Love these. You're going to need a block on which to stamp. It's a steel block with a rubber base. And you're going to need a dapping kit, which I have a wooden one here with the corresponding pegs. And I also have a heavy 1-pound hammer. To get started, we need to stamp some letters. So for the previous necklace, I chose my niece and nephew, one of my nieces and one of my nephews. For this necklace, I'm going to use 2 other names, and they're another niece and another nephew of a different employee here. So I'm going to stamp Sophie and Logan. On the larger one, I'm going to do Sophie. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the middle letters so that it's at the right place on the blank, because I don't want it to be over to the side. I want it to be centered. So since Sophie has 6 letters, I have to do the P and the H in the middle. So let's start with the P. You're going to want I don't know if you can read this, but it says Beadsmith 2mm. You want that facing you, and then you know the letter is going the right direction. And I'm going to do just off center of that hole, so slightly to the left. What I'm going to do is I'm going about maybe 1 millimeter away from the edge. And I'm making sure the squared off part is flush as possible with the edge. I don't want it to be like this. I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be lined up. I take my hammer. Some people like to do the 1-tap method. I like to kind of shift it forward to the side. There's your P. I'm going to do the H right next to that. And once again, the flat side has to be lined up with the edge. And I want the side of this letter almost touching the previous letter. I'm just eyeballing it. There are ways to do a more precise, if you don't trust yourself, you can use tape, you can kind of mark it first. We have a great video on how to stamp letters. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to set that aside. Now I'm going to do Logan's name. Now since this doesn't already have a hole at the top of it, you can stamp wherever you want and then punch the hole afterward, which is what I'm going to do. And there you have it. Okay, now that I have the stamping of the letters done, now I want to blacken them using a permanent marker. You can also use black acrylic paint. And this is not the most scientific method, but basically what I do is I rub it in and then quickly rub the excess off. It also provides a slightly antiqued look if you get some that stays on the other parts. Okay, now it's time for the dapping. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and there's a video that we have on how to dap rounds, and you can go ahead and watch that. It's very informational, and then I will be back to you when it's time to put your necklace all together. Now that I have my 2 discs dapped, I need to punch a hole in the gear one, and for that I have a Euro punch. It punches a 1.25 millimeter hole, and these things are so great. I'm going to find my center, which is just above the G. I'm going to line it up about a millimeter away from the edge on the inside of the gear. And there you have it. So now I can layer the two and hang it from one of my jump rings. But first I want to take my either gemstone or pearl or whatever you choose. I'm going to thread it onto my head pin. And I'm going to make a wrapped loop. We have a video on that too, just in case. Going to open one of my jump rings and going to thread on the larger disc, the smaller disc right on top of that, and my pearl. Let me close it again. I'm going to thread my chain through. I'm going to add my lobster clasp to a jump ring and thread that same jump ring through one end of the chain. Close it up again. And add the other jump ring to the other end of the chain. Close that up again. And there's your beautiful pendant, ready to wear. And remember, like I said, I've mixed metals here. I've used brass and silver and copper, and I've used non-precious metals, but this would look just stunning in sterling silver with a real gemstone. So play around with the plated stuff first, and then once you get to be pretty good at it, then you can move on to the sterling and have fun with it.